You are watching California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento today, and we are joined by John Chiang. He is the treasurer of the state of California. He has been the controller. He has been on the Board of Equalization. How's your new job?
It's fantastic.
Tell me about it. I mean, I bring up those other positions because clearly you have had several major positions in our state government that gives you a real sense of our economic health, our economic future, how our economy runs.
Yeah, the Treasurer's Office is perfect. I'm the state's banker. I'm also the agent of sale for the state's bonds. So, as you pointed out, Board of Equalization, I understand California's taxes. Then you move over to the controller's position where I handle the state's cash, also unclaimed property. We returned over $3 billion of people's monies.
Right.
And now I can explain taxes, cash when I go to Wall Street, explain what's happening with California's economy.
You truly do go to Wall Street. I don't know if people realize that. I mean, you really are a salesperson. You're the sales guy for California's bonds.
That's right.
Have you done it yet? Have you done the road shows?
Well, we just, we just sold the state's bonds last week. We came in for our lowest rates in over 25 years. So we've really improved our position.
Do you literally go on a road show? Do you need to get to Wall Street to kind of do a song and dance?
Well, every once in a while. California's really attractive. Actually,
yes.
Wall Street, they
like
come
to us.
They
right.
like California.
I was going to say. So let's talk about how the fact that, like you said, our interest rates were the lowest that they've been in, what, did you say 25 years?
In 20 years.
Which
20
is
plus
actually
years.
a little surprising because it feels like, I don't know, 15 years ago our economy was in pretty good shape. So what went right this time around?
Well, just look at what happened. We had the financial crisis. If you remember in 2009,
right.
I didn't want California to go off the fiscal cliff, so I had to issue $2.6 billion worth of IOUs.
I remember.
And so during that period of time, we were selling the state's debt of 170 basis points more than other similarly situated states, right? And that's a fortune, right? We borrow billions of dollars. You add that up, that's in the billions of dollars of additional interest.
And are we borrowing just for bonding purposes, or are we also borrowing for cash flow considerations?
So I was using debt for the bond, but we were also in massive cash deficit, right?
Okay.
We were borrowing for cash purposes over $30 billion.
Wow.
Now the good thing is that when I left the controller's office, I didn't think it would happen, but the last complete fiscal year, we got out of our state's cash deficit.
So we are no longer having to borrow for cash flow purposes.
We borrow temporarily and from internal funds. This year, we may not have to go out to the external markets to borrow money. So it's like you don't go to the bank.
Right.
You're borrowing from mom or dad.
I understand. So let's talk more about the bonds, because we know the governor is very adverse to our debt. He's been trying to pay down the debt. Although, like you said, our debt service is lower than it's ever been in terms of the interest rate. But we're still, 48th?
47th. Yeah, so
47th?
we got a credit upgrade a few weeks ago. So we went from A to A+. We were 50th. We're 47th. We're making progress. One of the concerns that Wall Street or the ratings agencies have about California is that we have some limitations. We don't have the flexibility. So while voters may like Prop 98, they may like Prop 13, they passed it. In terms of financial crisis, Wall Street likes to see more flexibility from the state. But we're demonstrating we have better practices. So despite some of the limitations they're concerned about, we're demonstrating that our economy is performing better, that we have more solid fiscal management. I was cited by the ratings agencies for 5 years as the controller for handling cash really well.
I see.
The voters took some strong action on Proposition 25. So we've had 4 on-time balanced budgets recently. And then we passed the rainy day fund in the last November election, which they really liked.
Right. So you have Prop 1 passing. You have Prop 30 passing a couple of years ago, which we know is bringing in more revenue.
Right.
Why can't we get that A++, for example? I mean, it seems as if we're doing everything we can, and still to be 47th, it's maddening.
Well, they're concerned about some issues. So the top policy issue that I said at my inaugural I was going to tackle in California was the lack of affordable housing. And actually in the Standard & Poor's February 23rd report, when they started concerns about California, they added this year affordable housing, lack of affordable housing. It has huge economic impact. How do you keep our bright young talent or seniors or the homeless in housing?
So is the concern that because it's so expensive to live in California, people start leaving and that could impact our tax base? Is that what the concern is?
Well, the concern is we have world-class talent. We have this incredible innovation. I went to China in December, and all these major cities wanted to be the next Silicon Valley, but they've recognized over the years that incredible innovation, ingenuity, that the entrepreneurship, it's hard to replicate.
Okay.
It's in the California DNA.
So what can you do as treasurer? I know it's one, like you said, it's one of your mantras. You want to address this question. What can you do? What can be done?
Well, I chair the two states' affordable housing financing authorities.
Okay.
As the state's banker, right? There's financing tools like a mortgage or student loans. So I'm trying to come up with the financing tools to create affordable housing so that we can keep the bright young talent here in California.
We had a great tool, arguably. It was called redevelopment. That was tax increment that was being used for affordable housing. I don't want to get into a debate necessarily about redevelopment, but we don't have it anymore.
Right.
And so what can localities do today to incentivize affordable development?
Well, we're looking at alternatives. We're talking to the local jurisdictions. We're talking to the architects, the engineers, the developers about how you can replace that 20% set-aside that came from the low-mod set-asides from redevelopment agencies. We're looking at if local government, instead of making that contribution, if they donate land, we ought to be thinking about what types of other enterprising ideas are out there so that we can make it work. When you have affordable housing, it's a capital stack, right? So you'll have a federal contribution, you'll have a state contribution, you have a local government contribution. So, and we need to get more private sector investment and to make that capital stack work for affordable housing.
But when you talk about affordable housing, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Right.
The other issue, it seems, though, is that real estate in our state is just incredibly expensive. I mean, you tell people in Texas, in Chicago, your hometown, how much our homes cost in our urban centers, they just can't believe it.
Right.
I mean, what can be done on that front?
Well, we can make some of the regulations easier so that the permitting isn't so expensive, but it is an incredibly attractive state, right?
Right.
A $4 million house, well, if you can get one on the coast of Malibu, isn't going to drop because you change a few things. That's part of the attraction of California.
Right.
We get more tourism. It drives people who want to dream big here. So we just have to figure out at the margins how to make it more effective. But understand it's going to be more expensive than other places.
I know that recently there's been a big move and a big push to look at the makeup of what's known as corporate boards. And I think some of our friends in Europe have actually started to legislate that corporate boards have certain diversity requirements. I don't know if it's an American DNA to regulate, to mandate corporate boards look a certain way, but it is an issue that you've been looking at.
Yeah,
what can you tell us?
I've led the effort. 7 years ago, I sit on both CalPERS and CalSTRS, the nation's two largest public pension plans. Yeah,
as controller?
Yeah,
and as treasurer.
Yeah,
okay, so you're still there.
13 board members on CalPERS, 12 board members on CalSTRS. And so I asked CalPERS and CalSTRS to look at better corporate governance. And so I just sent a letter back to them again, asking us to renew our efforts, to update our practices. This is a global economy. It's very exciting. So we have to get the talent that allows our corporations to compete on the global world. If China's growing, if India's growing, if Mexico's growing, Canada's our with Mexico, our largest trading partners, we have to get that expertise to build our businesses.
But how do you avoid creating corporate diversity that isn't just bean counting?
Yeah, it's not counting, right? It's identifying the talent. Years ago, they were talking about how Avon, they're selling their products to women, right? But back then they had one woman on their corporate board, right? With all due respect, even though you guys provided some makeup for me, I'm not the expert
no, I hear you.
in that area. If you're trying to attract people in the Latino market or the LGBT market or the Asian market, and we know California and the United States are incredibly diverse, get the people who understand the market.
So is it using the influence of the size of the pension funds to convince these corporate boards to diversify as opposed to demanding the regulation?
Well, what we do is we look at underperforming corporations and saying, what can you do better? And so it's not only that, it's like identifying young people who understand technology, how to be much more efficient, right? We're identifying the skill sets we need in a changing economy. 8 years ago, you didn't have a lot of apps. Today, this is an app economy.
You'll come back?
Yes.
He's John Chiang. He's the treasurer of the state of California. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.